Hello, I'm Executive Chef Joseph Schultz and welcome to our kitchen. Today I'd like to share with you one of my favorite classic Hungarian desserts, Somlói Galuska. In a nutshell, Somlói Galuska is the Hungarian version of a trifle. You may have heard of tres leches, cuatro leches, cakes, and such. The Hungarian one, I will say, elevates it significantly. Just a heads up, the process is very detailed and a little bit lengthy. There are many components to this dish, but it is very much worth the effort. When it's all said and done with, we will have 3 different sponge cakes. They're soaked with rum, layered with a pastry cream, raisins, walnuts. It will also have some apricot jelly or apricot preserves, and dusted with cocoa powder. So join me now as I show you this amazing dessert. Let's make our rum syrup. We'll take water, rum, obviously, and then let's take some granulated sugar with lemon zest and orange zest. We will put this in the pot, bring it up to medium-high heat. Do not stir it. Simmer until the sugar dissolves and the liquid has reduced by about 10%. Now, let's begin our rum and chocolate sauce. Let's bring a medium saucepan over medium-high heat. Let's add water. Let's add our sugar. Let's add some rum. And let's add our chocolate. All we need to do is bring this up to a boil or a gentle boil and stir it occasionally until the sugar dissolves and the chocolate dissolves. Everything should come together as one sauce. Well, now our syrup and our chocolate sauce is cooling down. Let's make our pastry cream. Take 3/4 of your milk and put it over medium-high heat and bring to a simmer. Take 1/4 into a stainless bowl, and we're gonna make our slurry by adding the cornstarch. Go ahead and whisk this together until the cornstarch has dissolved. Now that the cornstarch has dissolved, let's add our egg yolks and our sugar. Whisk this all together until everything is combined. Now that our milk is coming up to a simmer, I'm going to turn the heat off and we're going to slowly temper our egg mixture. What we're doing is we're slowly bringing the egg mixture up to a hotter temperature without scrambling the eggs. Okay, that should be enough there. Now it'll be hot enough. Now we're gonna pour this all into the pot and make our custard. So you will want to cook this over low heat to medium low. At this time I like to add my vanilla. And continue to cook. Here we are. The custard is starting to come up to a boil, which is what we're looking for. And we're gonna let it get a little thicker, and then what we'll do is remove it from this pot, put it into a bowl, and cool it down in an ice bath. Okay, let's go ahead and pour this into the bowl. So now, I'm gonna go ahead and set this here. And now I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap. This will help prevent a skin on top. Be sure to tuck in the corners there, get no trapped air. Now we're in the water bath. Allow it to sit until it cools. Well, let's begin with our regular plain genoise. Grab your mixing bowl. Let's add the eggs. Let's add the sugar. Go ahead and just give it a quick whisk. Put things together. Okay. Now they're loosely mixed together. This is perhaps the most critical step of making genoise, is cooking it over the bath. So I have a water bath going, and the water is just at a boil because I removed it from the heat for this demonstration. If I were to continue doing this over the stovetop, I would have it just to a light simmer generating steam. We're going to continuously whisk our egg mixture until it reaches a temperature of 100 degrees to 115 maximum Fahrenheit. Good way to check along the ways, the bottom of the pan. If the bottom of the pan becomes too hot for you to touch, immediately remove it. You do not want to scramble the egg. Let's go ahead and give this a check with a thermometer. (105). So now, let's remove the water bath. And we're going to immediately go to our mixer. Set it with our wire whip. Go ahead and we will mix this together until the volume triples at least. And we are going to bring it to what's called the ribbon stage. Okay, now let's take a look at it. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Take a pinch of salt. And let's take about 1/3 of our cake flour. And the reason I recommend cake flour is it's going to provide you with a much more moist cake because of the lower protein percentages in it. We're looking at probably 7 to 9%. So now that we got that in there, so let's gently fold everything together. I try not to hit the spatula off of the side of the bowl because I really do not want to deflate any of the air. So now I will add a little clarified butter and then the remaining flour. And then we will continue to fold until everything is incorporated. Now I want to tray it up. What I did was I cut a little piece of parchment paper to use as kind of like a marker. It's roughly 25 centimeters by 25 centimeters. So that gives me a little bit of a idea on my size. I'm going to want to square it out a little bit. I'm not too concerned with some extra because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trim the edges anyway. Whenever I'm making the other layers or the other genoise, I just want to ensure they're roughly the same size. So I'm happy with that. Now I'll place into an oven 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 12 minutes. Now for the walnut genoise, as we did in the first plain genoise, We cooked our eggs and sugar to that 100, 105, 10, 15 degrees, whatever. Now, the next step of the process for that is let's add about a third of our walnut flour. Let's add a pinch of salt. And let's add 1/3 of our cake flour. Walnut flour can be sometimes called walnut meal. It is just simple walnuts that have been ground to a fine powder. Now, fold this in and continue the same process as we did with the regular Genoise. For our third and final Genoise, our chocolate. Again, as before, we had cooked our whites and sugar. Let's add a pinch of salt. And let's go ahead and sift our cake flour and cocoa powder. Mix it up into thirds. And then again, gently fold everything in. Now for assembly. I'm gonna put it in the 9 by 13 inch dish, which is 22 by 33, or yeah, 33 centimeter. So I'll kind of lay it over top here just to get an idea on its size. Now, because I'm using a silpat or a silicone mat, I will not use a knife on here. I don't want to damage these. They are pretty expensive. So using a palette knife, I can gently go through there. Let's make certain that it detached completely. There you go. Little extra here in the corner is not gonna hurt anything. That's the wonderful thing about this particular dessert, is that it's not pretentious. All you're really looking to do is make certain that all of your components of the dessert cover the entire area. This little bit that's here, I will not use it for this particular dessert. I'll make a little small mini Somlói on the side. So next, we will take our rum syrup and go ahead and ladle some in. So now, let's go with our custard. This custard is pretty stiff, and which is fine because that's going to help make it more stable rather than it just be, one big mess. So now let's carefully spread out our crème or custard nice and even. Now let's go with our raisins. I mixed golden raisin and red raisins just to add a little more color and flair to it. I also have it soaking in the in rum. So anytime I work with dry fruits, I always like to rehydrate them, usually with a wine. Well, we will add our walnuts. Some people like to chop their walnuts very fine, almost like a powder. My family, we really love the texture that that the pieces give you. A little bit of bite to it and not everything turned mush. Okay, next layer is our chocolate layer. And once again, we're going to get our size, and then go ahead and top it again, just as we did on the bottom layer. Got a little extra there I'm going to cut off. Now I like to press down a little bit on it to ensure that we pack everything in. Again with the syrup. Okay. Now back to the custard. Again with your raisins. Walnut. Now our final layer, which is the walnut layer. Let's go ahead and trim this edge here. If you like, you could take some of the smaller pieces like this and press it into the corners to fill it up. It's, you know, it's completely up to you. So now, tuck everything in. And again with the rum. And my favorite part, the apricot preserve. Spread this across the top evenly again. Let's just put it all on it, right? Okay, it's good to me. And then one final item is if Gundel didn't make it difficult enough, we're gonna throw one more thing on there. And we're gonna use cocoa powder. So what I'll do is I put a little on top and just dust it across the top. There you have it. So now, the bad news. We have to put it in the cooler and let it set overnight. At minimum 8 hours. We want all the flavors to join in. We want that the Genoise to absorb the rum. And the flavors will really, really develop. Gently cover with plastic wrap. And we'll see this baby tomorrow morning. Well, here we are at the finish line. Time to assemble a plate. So when I do, I'll always start with a little of the chocolate. Throw a little of the chocolate rum sauce at the bottom. Now what you're gonna do is we're gonna wanna cut a kind of like a dumpling shaped cut into the cake. You could use a quenelle style or shaped ice cream scoop or just a larger spoon. I kind of like the larger spoon because I can get a little bigger pieces if I want. So, kind of cutting in on a rounded motion, drop down through in all 3 layers, and then we're going to turn the piece out like so. Now I'll turn the dish, and I will cut another, like that. We will add a little chocolate sauce to the top. cream. Make sure that you keep your ISI machine very cold. The colder the ingredients, the more air that you can get into it, and the whippier your cream is. Then I will finish with a few walnuts. And there you have Somlói Galuska. Well, there you have Somlói Galuska. As promised, there are a lot of steps to the method, and it is quite a procedure. But please do not let that discourage you from making one of the most amazing desserts. Key critical point is definitely when cooking the egg mixture to 100 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. That is absolutely a must when you are making a true sponge cake or genoise. What's going to happen is the proteins will become more elastic, they will stretch, and it will trap in more air, enabling your sponge cake to be a real sponge and not be just flat. Should your sponge cake come out rubbery, chances are you overworked the mixture whenever you were folding in the dry ingredients. So please exercise caution when folding and take large strokes and deep. So that way you can get more air into it, into the batter. When it comes to assembling the cake itself, you definitely want it to sit a minimum 6 to 8 hours, if not overnight. And the reason it is, you're trying to develop all the flavors of the rum and everything together. You know, I guess the best way to describe this dessert is it's a Hungarian tiramisu or a Hungarian trifle. I mean, in its essence, it is pretty much the same thing. Well, that's all I have. I hope you enjoyed today's demonstration. Love for you to give it a shot. Let me know below what you think about it, some feedback and comments. I can assure you, follow my method and procedure, you will definitely wow any of the guests you serve it to. Thank you again. Jöjj.